GoCo, please, Matthew, come on stage. You're presenting a new project of the famous price comparison business in the UK.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Matthew Crummack. I'm from GoCo Group. But you may not recognize the name because we changed it. We were originally called GoCompare, the UK price comparison website. And for those of you who lived here, you will recognize that because we had a very famous television character, an opera singer with a big mustache on TV. And that's why you'll know GoCompare. But I'm not going to talk about that today because we changed our name because we're in a new project. Today we're in a different business. We are a publicly traded business. We spun out in November 16. We have about a 400 million market cap today. We're about 350 people. But I'm here to talk about how we want to revolutionize the way people save money and buy things which are frankly not that interesting. And we're talking about insurance, home utilities, domestic energy, and so on. And the reason I want to talk about that is because we're talking to different types of people. And all of you in this room can broadly segment into different types here. And you've got people at the top here, these hobbyists. Saving hobbyists love to save money. And they'll spend an hour to save 10 bucks. Because it's something that is really interesting to them. They go hunt around the internet and go hunt for deals. That's about 1 in 5 of every British people. At the other end of the spectrum, you have saving resistors, who frankly are not interested in that because they fundamentally believe that their supplier is being great to them and is loyal to them. My father, who's 93, will never move from British Gas. He is a savings resistor, right? In the middle, you have 3 in 5 of Brits who are saving resignists. These people generally can't be bothered. And we'll talk about why they can't be bothered in a moment. But there's a whole market that's being missed in the middle here around saving resignists. The saving hobbyists are the ones targeted by price comparison websites, including GoCompare. And for the last 15 to 20 years, that behavior has been refined by lots and lots of TV advertising, of hundreds of millions of pounds of TV advertising, whether it's opera singers, animals, dancing people, and all that innovation around the marketing, but very little innovation around the product itself. And that's meant that it's been a very competitive market, but a market that's been stuck in the way it's done things. But that market itself is worth £1 billion. But it's only talking to the 1 in 5, really, who can be bothered. For the 3 in 5 that can't be bothered, the saving resignists, actually the potential opportunity is 3 to 4 times the size of the existing market. And we have 2 brands in that business, in that area, and we're going to talk about those in a minute. But you have to go back and look at and understand why people don't switch, and it's inertia. And government and media and regulators talk about inertia because it's why people can't be bothered. And people often say, well, I don't have time, of course. I don't have time to sort my insurance out, or I don't have time to sort my domestic energy out. But that's a falsehood. That's an excuse because they certainly have enough time to spend 4 hours a day on social media, 2 hours watching Netflix, and 2 hours in the cafe, right? But they don't have enough time to spend 45 minutes or half an hour switching and saving themselves several £100s. That's because for many people, it's either very boring or very complicated, or if you go and ask the behavioral economists, it's frightening. And actually, the impact and the burden of that falls upon those who can afford it the least. And so it becomes a problem for society because the people that can't afford should be the ones that are actually saving. Now actually, so what we did is we went to one area where we knew immediately there was a big problem, and that is the energy sector, domestic energy sector. That's gas and electric into your home. It's a highly deregulated market here in the UK. And there are 28 million homes broadly that have domestic energy piped into them. And in the last year or so, around 5 million of homes actively switched their domestic energy. That leaves 23 million that didn't. Now, within that 23 million, we also know that 15 million actually are on what's called a standard variable tariff. So they're on the most expensive tariff 15 million households. And we know, because of data, that they're spending something like £300 more than they need to on their domestic energy. So we thought, great, how do we target those people and actually bring the people that can't be bothered and actually start to convert them and get them off those standard variable tariffs? And that's where we went into thinking about getting them to do one thing. If you only do one thing, come and sign up with us, because we'll then take that burden away from you and forevermore we'll switch you. That means the customer is delegating their authority to us, and on their behalf we are then in the background switching providers for them and keeping them on lower tariffs forever. It's a free service, and in the background we are then remunerated by suppliers in the background, but we retain those customers. And we are switching them and keeping them on low tariffs. But they only need to do one thing. And of course, these aren't people who are looking to switch, because they don't go into Google and say, I can't be bothered to switch. You know, they're not searching for those things. They are people that you need to go and find and talk to in a different way, and that's what we're doing. We'll talk about the results in a moment of this. Inertia works for suppliers, for providers in a market which is not efficient. Here, the inertia is working for the customer because they're signed up and we're keeping them on lower tariffs. Now, we think customers are ready for it. We've done our research, and of course, we looked at the energy sector, but we also look at other, like home utilities, home communications, insurance, home entertainment. There are so many categories where, frankly, as an individual user, the pricing and the policies for that user are unintelligible. And we're not talking about the people perhaps sitting in this room here or me, where you can go through and examine it and look at it, but you're talking about the general populace who find it very complicated because they don't spend much time on it. And so it's about giving them an opportunity, and they tell us the idea of somebody looking after that for them is very attractive. But it's not just the research that says that. As of today, we announced a couple of weeks ago, we are a publicly traded company, so I'm restricted from what I can say on all sorts of things. But we did say to the market that we'd reached already our targets for the year of acquiring 220,000 customers into this service. We had 175,000 when we did our interim results in July. So we're accelerating, which is wonderful news. We have two brands in this business. We have an organic brand which we develop called WeFlip, which is the chameleon individual on the right. And then on the left, we have a brand called Look After My Bills, which we acquired. Look After My Bills was a Y Combinator-funded startup that won a program called Dragon's Den here. It was the highest funded, lowest equity deal in the history of Dragon's Den. And we brought that team into the business earlier on in the year. Both brands are focused on helping people to automatically save and to take that burden away. And we're very excited about the opportunities to go after those 23 million households out there with both of those brands. We talk about this being transformative to our group by 2022. And we do have ambition. We don't talk about targets. I'm not allowed to talk about targets, but I can talk about ambition. And our ambition is that we'd love to be servicing 10% of UK households. That's what we'd love to do. We think there are millions of people out there who want a service, who need a service, and can be given real benefit from this. And equally, but on the supplier side, we think there are suppliers out there who can really benefit from having a stable set of customers that they can go to and help in a more balanced way, in a more sustainable way. The model here is a sustainable revenue model. The customer doesn't pay, and we keep that customer year after year. In the background, we're receiving revenue from suppliers on a sustainable basis. So from a model standpoint, it becomes a lifetime value model. The lifetime value model for us is a transformative thing. I haven't talked at all about GoCompare, but GoCompare and that price comparison business and that sector is a transaction-led business. which means that it's a giant fight in Google. Short story, well, a lot of TV. This is a lifetime value business, and it's transformative to us. Now, final word here. This is the first time in my 25 plus years that I've worked with a company that's only UK-based. So it's a little odd. My international travel consists of going down to Wales, and I don't speak Welsh. I've spoken lots of other languages, but don't do that. But if you go and ask anybody around the world, and I've traveled a lot, are the same problems that we're dealing with here the same around the world? The answer is yes. There are people out there who are very confused all around the world, and we think it's agnostic to language, to culture, and to currency. So thank you very much indeed. That's our GoCo Group story. Have a great afternoon. Thanks.
But you know that it's embarrassing.